10 days to go before Election Day and 8 days left in the national campaign period for the 2025 elections. Hi, my name is Bagong Pilipinas. You are watching Rappler and I am in Lucena City in Quezon Province where a few moments ago, the Alyansa para sa Bagong Pilipinas and President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. himself campaigned here in the vote-rich province of Quezon. Sa gilid ko lang actually yung parang convention center ng Quezon where they held a rally. It's the first of the four last for the admin coalition in the 2025 campaign period. So let's just have a quick recap kung sino ba yung mga kandidato at mga bet ng Alyansa dito sa 2025 kasi after all, it's been almost 90 days since the kick-off of the campaign back in February 11, 2025 doon sa Ilocos Norte. So, quickly lang, Benhur Abalos is the former Interior Secretary of President Marcos. Abby Binay is the incumbent Makati Mayor. Tito Soto is a former Senator. So is Ping Lacson. Pia Cayetano is a re-electionist. Camille Villar is the House Deputy Speaker. Manny Pacquiao is a former Senator as well, of course, the People's Champion. Bong Revilla is a re-electionist. So is Francis Tolentino. Lito Lapid is a re-electionist as well. And finally, ACT-CIS representative and former Social Welfare Secretary Erwin Tulfo rounds up the lineup of Alyansa. If you notice, 11 lang yon. Kasi nung start ng campaign, 12-person slate yung Alyansa. Ngayon, 11 na lang sila. Bakit? Kasi umalis or tinanggap ng Alyansa at kusang umalis din si Senator Amy Marcos, a re-electionist who is also, of course, the sister of the President. She stopped joining Alyansa in the aftermath of the arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte and his transfer to The Hague, where he now faces charges of crimes against humanity over his bloody drug war in the ICC. Senator Marcos said she could no longer join the Alyansa, and the Alyansa said good luck, and subsequently removed her from the collaterals of the campaign, of the slate's campaign materials at least. So, which brings us to where we are today. Kanina yung usap-usapan sa press conference ng Alyansa candidates ay yung involvement or, the controversy surrounding Camille Villar. Of course, Camille Villar, a representative who represents Las Piñas in Congress, aside from being the Deputy House Speaker, no? She belongs to the powerful Villar clan. When we say powerful, we mean not just in politics, but in business as well. Her father, former Senate President Manny Villar, is yung richest Filipinos according to Forbes list of billionaires in the Philippines. At the hot seat currently is Prime Water. That is a private utility company, water utility company owned by the Villars. It has nearly 100 partnerships with different water utility companies across the Philippines. No? Now it's underwater, in hot water, pardon the pun, because of complaints, not just from citizens, but even local government officials themselves about the poor service that has befallen their localities since Prime Water came over. Recently, a few days ago, President Ferdinand Marcos himself ordered government to probe or to investigate kung ano nangyayari dyan sa Prime Water, bakit pangit yung services. If you want information on how Prime Water's services or lack thereof has affected Filipinos, specifically in Bulacan, San Jose del Monte, and also in Cavite, you can read the wonderful reports by my colleagues Lian Buan and Dwight De Leon. They're on Rappler. Hanapin mo na lang. Google nyo na lang Rappler or i-search nyo Rappler Prime Water. So, again, yung situation natin ngayon, Marcos has ordered a probe into Prime Water. Of course, tinanong kanina yung mga Senate bets ng Alyansa, at least those who joined the press conference earlier. So, interestingly enough, senatorial candidates Benhur Abalos, Erwin Tulfo, Ping Lacson, and Tito Soto agreed that it was a good move, or it was a necessary move even, by the Marcos administration to probe Prime Water, even if it is owned by the Villars, of which, of course, Camille Villar belongs to. Earlier in the palace, in a separate press briefing, Undersecretary Claire Castro, who is the press officer for Malacanang, pointed out that it's government's obligation to listen to the sentiments and complaints even of the average Filipino citizen. Now, ang interesting kanina, yung four senatorial candidates that I mentioned earlier, no, si Benhur Abalos, Erwin Tulfo, Ping Lacson, and Tito Soto, pointed out na yung sa pag-iikot daw nila sa Pilipinas, nakarinig na nga sila ng complaints, not just from ordinary voters, ordinary Filipinos, but even local government officials themselves about the services or the lack thereof, or shortages or shortcomings of Prime Water in their locality. So that's an interesting thing to note na parang kumbaga they came with receipts. They mentioned specific provinces, regions, and even cities wherein they heard nga about complaints regarding prime water. And yet, despite all these things, no, the Malacanang ordered a probe, or Marcos ordered a probe, candidates also backing that probe and saying that it is absolutely necessary for Malacanang to do this. Camille Villar remains in the slate. That is also said by Toby Chanco, the campaign manager for Alyansa, and also Navota's representative. Sabi niya, Camille Villar remains in the Alyansa slate, therefore Nationalista Party also remains in the fold of Alyansa. There were rumors way back, or speculation, siguro would be the better term, a few weeks ago no, na baka kumalas yung Nationalista dahil nga Camille Villar kept skipping Alyansa rallies. Now, they're saying is that Camille remains in the slate. Yung justification or yung explanation din naman ng kapwa kandidato niya sa Alyansa is yung pinoprobe naman daw ay prime water at hindi si Camille Villar mismo. But again, they note na yes, prime water is owned by the Villars. But again, the emphasis was or the government is probing the company, not the person. Representative Tulfo even made a suggestion earlier, I guess off the cuff yun, na maybe it is time to pass legislation that would bar politicians specifically from having a stake or from their businesses to have a stake in public utilities such as yung water nga. So, but also yung context ng siguro dito, no, bukod sa prime water, bukod sa diskusyon of Camille Villar skipping Alyansa sorties, several Alyansa sorties already, is that Camille has been in the Magic 12 actually, in preference surveys across the board, across different survey firms, but compared siguro to the Villars before her, no, she hasn't been as dominant in these preference surveys. So she's just like at the edge of the Magic 12. So compare that to her mother, incumbent and outgoing Senator Cynthia Villar, who even topped the 2019 senatorial race, no? And also her brother, incumbent Senator Mark Villar, who has 3 years left in his current term, who was around either fifth or sixth in the 2022 presidential elections when he ran for the Senate. So kumbaga, it's also crunch time for Camille Villar specifically to make sure that she makes it to the Magic 12. An interesting thing also that we noticed kanina, well, it's the second time that it's happened at least, Erwin Tulfo, who again is the survey frontrunner among the Alyansa bets before he was overtaken by re-election of Senator Bongo, the former aide of former President Rodrigo Duterte. He was the lone frontrunner in most preference surveys for the 2025 senatorial race. So si Tulfo has been quite aggressive, not just in campaigning for himself, of course, but also campaigning for the entire Alyansa slate, and specifically campaigning for Benhur Abalos and Francis Tolentino, who, kumbaga, within the Alyansa slate, sila yung pinaka nahuhuli sa mga preference surveys. So he repeated that pitch earlier, no? And then he's actually mentioned that also in Pangasinan. So kanina yung pitch niya is parang, even before you shade my name in the ballot, puntahan nyo muna yung Abalos kasi nauna yon, at puntahan nyo yung Tolentino kasi nasa dulo yon, and make sure that these two candidates, you also include them in your ballot. So that's an interesting pitch by the leading candidate of Alyansa, campaigning heavily or putting even more emphasis on the campaigns and making a pitch for yung kasama niya sa slate who aren't doing as well. Now, tomorrow, Alyansa heads to another vote-rich province in the Southern Tagalog. They're going to Batangas. Kumbaga, ang dami ng stops ng Alyansa sa Batangas, sa Southern Tagalog region, vote-rich Southern Tagalog. They've been to Cavite, they've been to Laguna. They've actually also been to Rizal recently, mga end of March sila nagpunta ng Rizal. So it's interesting that there is quite a focus on courting the Southern Tagalog vote. Now, again, like I said earlier, we've come a really long way since February 2024, before former President Rodrigo Duterte was arrested and brought to The Hague. Of course, it was after the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte, the former ally of the President and the daughter of the former President. Now, the question is, can Marcos and his 11-person slate and their allies on the ground sell the promise of a Bagong Pilipinas, or yung branding ng Marcos administration, to the electorate and therefore win a majority? Well, they are poised actually to win a majority in the Senate, or at least majority of the 12 seats available in the 2025 elections. But we'll see kung they can follow that through come May 12. Now, if you want to answer that question, if can Marcos and his slate sell the idea of Bagong Pilipinas to the electorate in 2025, you can you can download the Rappler app. head on to the Politics and Governance chat channel. Talk to me there, talk to my colleagues there, editors are there, thought leaders are there, and you can even ask us questions, no? And offer us your opinions, your reading of what's going on, the dynamics of national and local, the dynamics of Malacanang, Alyansa, the Villars, and the Nationalista Party even. Of course, stay tuned to Rappler on May 10. That's the end of the national campaign period. In the 2025 elections, we expect most coalitions and parties, even the local ones, to hold their meetings de avance. And of course, keep it on Rappler on May 12 when millions of Filipinos head out to vote and select the next batch of leaders who will hopefully bring the Philippines to whatever vision the Filipino wants the Philippines to head to. Again, this has been Bea Cupin in Lucena. We'll see you tomorrow in Batangas. Keep it on Rappler and follow us for updates on the 2025 national elections and on Philippine governance and politics in general. Thank you for watching. Bye.